eat, sleep, breathe tennis. Today we get to hear from Michele Krause, co-founder and world expert of cardio tennis. She is also the founder of InTENNsity Fitness. She's a cardio tennis consultant for the USTA and global fitness director for Play Your Court. She has been featured on Tennis Channel's 1 Minute Clinics and reality shows like Bulging Brides and The Biggest Loser. She is an international speaker and trainer and has delivered over 500 educational courses in tennis and fitness all over the world. She graduated from Arizona State University and she's headquartered here in Florida, very close to me. I'm so excited to welcome Michele to Vida Tennis. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks, Jennifer. So nice to be here and talk with you.
I did not know that you had been in some reality show, so I'm gonna have to eat
Yeah,
it up.
yeah. Well, let's knock that out right now, okay? Because it is kind of humorous. We all know Biggest Loser, and this has to be going back 10 years ago. But when I got confirmation that cardio tennis was going to be on The Biggest Loser, I was so excited, obviously.
Yeah.
And I had texted my husband. He was on a business trip and was out to dinner to let him know. And he said to his group, oh, my wife's going to be on Biggest Loser. And then, of course, the assumption is I'm I'm a contestant, on
Have they looked
on
at you?
so there a little clarification. No, she's going to be, a trainer on the Biggest Loser. So that was actually, most people don't know this. It's one of my favorite cardio tennis stories. This was prior to, do you remember when Anna Kournikova
Yes.
was one of the trainers? Okay, she did 1 or 2 seasons. I can't remember. So this was prior to this. All right. So really it was about Anna being on the show, but they were like, well, we need something exciting for her to do, right? Like, we're going to introduce her. At this time, it was not about her being a permanent fixture on the show.
Yeah.
So the concept of cardio tennis came up. Oh, yeah, this will be great. We'll do cardio tennis on The Biggest Loser. So we went out to California, did the whole thing, but it was Anna, it wasn't me. Okay. Like, they did not want, which I get. Okay. They did not want me or my trainers on the screen whatsoever. I mean, if you watch it, I think you see like 1 second of me. Okay. But because it was about Anna. It was her. I mean, that's
Yeah.
who people are watching, right? Like, for
Yeah.
obvious reasons. So then after that, she was then asked to be a permanent fixture. So I jokingly say, okay, because of tennis, Anna got the gig on on the Biggest Loser. Yeah.
Oh,
So
that's awesome. That's so cool. And what
and
about Bulging Brides?
yeah, Bulging Brides. I don't think Bulging Brides exists anymore, but this was also kind of around that time frame because Biggest Loser was like a trendsetter, right, in that space. So Bulging Brides was more of a Canadian-based reality show, and the concept was the bride needed to lose 10, 15 pounds before her wedding date. So they would do different fitness sports activities to get the bride and maybe her bridesmaid to
Nice.
shape for her big day. So yes, we did cardio tennis on
Oh
that
my
too.
goodness.
See, but those things still just to this day bring such a smile to my face. I mean, because they were
Yeah.
just crazy, crazy experiences. Yeah. So
That's
all
so
good.
fun. Well, I have
Mm.
like a bazillion questions for you. I have known of you probably since I started teaching tennis because you're the face of cardio tennis. I think cardio tennis and I think of you. And it's so fun to just kind of follow all the things that you do. I was lucky to take a cardio tennis clinic. I think it was at a USPTA thing one time, and it was so fun. I loved it. I was like, I want to do this every day. I run cardio tennis, and we're gonna get into all that stuff quite differently, not the official way, I always say. Um,
That's
but
okay.
but first, I want to know about you. I want to know about you, Michelle. How did you
Yeah.
get into this world of teaching tennis, of course, and also cardio tennis?
Right.
Did you come up with it? How did all that get started?
My background, I think, in the world of tennis, my journey is a little bit different because I didn't play tennis at a very high level. I didn't compete. I didn't play at Arizona State. I was not, I mean, not even miles, planets away from doing that, having that capability. But I did play tennis growing up most of my life in all sports. I did a little teaching before college. After college, I actually started doing some teaching again. And then I just never stopped teaching coaching. So it wasn't necessarily my game plan. I had other game plans, but like many people, that's what it morphed into. So I just never left teaching coaching. We love it for all the obvious reasons. Cardio tennis, I was in from the beginning. Most people don't understand like how cardio tennis really came about or why it was developed. So at the time, Jim Baugh was the president of the Tennis Industry Association, and he was also a USTA national board member. And Jim Baugh had previously been the president of Wilson Sporting Goods. So this was a very smart and well-respected person in the tennis industry. And then Jolene DeBoer was the executive director of the TI. They looked at, Jim was a big research guy, still is, data. So if we go back to 2004, the data was showing that fitness activities were kicking the butt of traditional sports: tennis, soccer, football, baseball, basketball. So they said, what can tennis do to compete in that arena? And that's how cardio tennis was essentially born. And then they hired me to help launch it, put it out there, etc. But tennis needed something like that. I mean, we love tennis. We know that even in its purest form, what an amazing fitness activity it is, and all the health, wellness, and fitness benefits. Okay, the research shows now that if you play tennis, I always like to say, if you don't want to die, play tennis. All right, you're going to live 10 years longer. Okay, more so than any other sport. So, but even if you fast forward to 2023, now there's not just is there fitness, there's hundreds of more things that every piece, every sport, every fitness activity is competing for a consumer's time, love, and attention. So that's really the history. But again, why did tennis need it? Because people that maybe are not as skilled in tennis, they're not getting the full benefit, right? Because they can't keep the ball in play.
Yeah.
If you're picking up balls more than you're touching the ball, you're not getting the appropriate workout.
And how did the whole program get put together? Was that a collaboration between you and other coaches, or did they hire you and you kind of designed it, tweaked it? How did that work out?
Because it lived under the tennis industry umbrella and the USTA. So it was in the very beginning, it was very much a collaboration between those two organizations because Jim essentially was in a leadership role in both organizations. So there was a lot of budget that was put towards it in those first couple years. I was hired initially really to manage it, to deliver coach education, to be a promoter slash salesperson of the product. Yeah. And of course, my role has morphed, changed, evolved, just like anything would there. So it had tremendous support. And again, this was about 2005. So the industry, all the stakeholders were really behind it. So that is part of the testament to, there's a lot of reasons for the success.
Yeah.
Like anything, it's not just one thing, but it did help in the beginning to have some money and industry support behind it. And we thought, oh, this will be great for the United States. Everybody will love it. We had no real clue how quickly and how immediately everybody outside the United States would want it, actually. So that was a bit of a surprise to us.
Yeah, that's so cool. And that is so important, right? To have that support from your associations. I think that's probably one of the key to how successful it has been. And you were able to grow it throughout the years. I mean, now it's been what, 20 years?
Yeah, close. Yeah, it's like 8, 19. Yeah, it's a long time, Jennifer.
And that, I mean, but you got the name, you got the brand recognition, right? For cardio tennis. I think everybody that's in the tennis industry knows it. And unless they've been under a rock, I mean, everybody.
Unless you're sleepy, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but some people might have some ideas or concepts that they want to do, but are not really successful at taking it worldwide, like you have, or like it happened with cardio tennis. Other than support from the associations, do you have any maybe advice for someone that has a really cool idea and wants to make it go worldwide or at least big here in the US?
Yeah, it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much blood, take the blood part out of it, but it is a lot of sweat, literally and physically. It's cardio tennis, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Great times, but with any business, tears, frustration. When you love something so much and it's so close to your heart, you have all these emotions. There's no doubt that over this time period, I am a bit of a workaholic, but it's all the effort that has been put into it, the constant networking, the constant being out there, putting yourself out there. It's and there has to be persistence and there has to be consistency. And persistence is a huge piece. I'll give you one example of persistence. This past US Open, we were able to do the cardio tennis demo on Arthur Ashe Stadium, right? So that is
Awesome.
something that, yeah, that is something that I had been dreaming of, wanting to make happen for 15 years.
Wow. Well,
So it took me
congratulations.
yeah,
That's
thank
awesome.
you. So it took me 15 years, right? So that I think is a bit of either that's a little bit of crazy or that's a definition of persistence and pursuing your passion. Does it take money? Sure, it takes money too, but I can tell you that most of the time there was no money. All right. So these are nonprofit organizations. Okay. Cardio tennis was designed for the masses. It was for everybody. So even though there might have been big budget in those first couple years, that budget very quickly went away. All right. So I was always in a position of having to adapt, having to pivot. How do we still make this work when there is essentially no money?
Mm. And why was that? Was that because you say it was Jim Bob? Is that because he left and then somebody else?
No, without getting into super
Sure.
detail, because it's a little bit complicated. You're just kind of dealing with some, it's a nonprofit, and
Yeah.
how the tennis industry can often work is money is kind of earmarked for something, and then it's like seeded, and then there's a bit of an expectation that then it just survives
Yeah.
on its own. Whether that's right or wrong, I won't that's a different story, but that's
Yeah.
kind of a general flow of things.
Mm. And what about on the teaching side? Are you teaching on the side, or has this always been your main gig since you took over cardio
Yeah,
tennis? Is that all you do, or like, not that
yeah,
it's not enough? That's not
right.
meant, but I'm just saying, like, do you teach it all like regular clinics or anything like that?
Yeah, that's a
That's
common question I get asked, Jennifer. When I took on the cardio tennis role, I would say I more or less retired from teaching tennis. I'm never home. Like I'm never even and I just don't have time. I mean, literally my role has been to manage cardio tennis globally, and I'm one person.
yeah.
I don't have a staff. So it's not just the US that I have an eyeball on, it's the whole globe. Now, we have national and global cardio tennis trainers that help, but these are people that are primarily their full time roles is teaching, coaching tennis. They don't do a lot, not because they don't want to. It's more circumstantial. So I coached during pandemic.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I
we
remember.
all we all coach during pandemic.
Yeah. Oh,
So, but
like at a club or where?
I was during that time. It was interesting because I felt I was literally running around Sarasota like a crazy person, just coaching at so many different places. Everybody
Yeah.
was trying to get by and do what they needed to do to survive. It's a pretty rare occasion that I'm able to kind of be hands-on coaching. But my coaching is I'm constantly doing consumer activations under the cardio tennis umbrella. I'm
Yeah.
coaching, I'm training the coaches. I'm still a coach teacher. My market is just a little different.
Sure. And is cardio tennis now still part of the TIA, or is it its own thing? It's its own company now, or how does that?
So it's owned by the USTA.
Okay.
So it was owned by the TIA, and then about, I think we're going on 5 years ago, 6 years ago, it moved over to the USTA. So they are the owners, and it is trademark product. All right. So in the US, and it always has been trademarked. And that trademark is owned in the US, North America, Europe, South Africa, some other countries. The trademark is owned by the TIA slash USTA, former
Yeah.
TIA, now USTA.
How is it perceived in other countries? I'm curious.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And each country, as we all know, has its unique culture and personality.
Yeah.
So I would say, like, where would it be more similar? It's not that it's not similar. It's kind of like the consumers are a little bit different. So if I look at the UK, I would say that probably it's pretty close to where what we are, because they are, UK is about fitness and big commercial fitness facilities, okay, and so there is a culture of fitness. You look at Austria. Austria is great. Okay. I was just there this past summer, but what I learned there is that everybody loves to play singles.
Mm.
Like, I was actually pleasantly surprised how much singles is going on as
Mm.
opposed to doubles, because in the US it's all double. I mean, it's
Yeah.
predominantly doubles play. So in Austria, they're not really used to putting a lot of people on a court because they're barely doing doubles
Yeah.
stuff,
Like,
let alone putting 8 people on a court. So you'll have these little different nuances from country to country. Here's the thing with cardio tennis, it always was and still is designed to be a global brand. Okay. Just like the other really successful fitness products, like a lay mill body pump, okay, like Zumba, all
mhm.
right, like Orange Theory came way after cardio tennis, okay. CrossFit was even almost after cardio tennis, okay. Those are global fitness brands. And when I say global brand, okay, or if you take a lay mill body pump class, you know exactly what you're going to get,
Yeah.
okay, whether you're in Tampa, Florida, London, or Sydney, okay, it is going to be the same experience, right? Unfortunately, with cardio tennis, that is not the case, meaning we're not meeting that expectation, okay, where facilities slash coaches are using the name,
Yeah.
right? Okay. So let's forget the other countries. Let's just talk about the US. All
Yeah.
right. So whether it's, I mean, I can be in Sarasota and I can go to 10 different clubs, and that cardio tennis is all going to look very different. So if I'll take Orange Theory, okay, or again, big fitness brands, they have their own language. They have their own community. They have their own culture. Cardio tennis has that. Cardio tennis has its own specific language. But again, the coaches aren't using it.
Yeah. Well, there also would need to be like certified by cardio tennis.
Well, even when they've taken the education, Jennifer, they're choosing to just do whatever they want. All
Mm.
right. So when I say language, cardio blasts, cardio balls, on deck, plastics, I mean, there are things that are very specific that
Mhm.
are referenced. There's a format, there's a structure. And again, most of the coaches don't do the education.
So something just popped in my mind. Are we all in
Yeah.
violation of a trademark when we're using cardio tennis?
Nah, yeah, I know and it's normal to think that. Here's the thing: the tennis industry is not going to do legal. Okay,
Yeah.
there's bigger fish to fry.
Oh, I
So
know. But I just
yeah,
thought about it.
yeah,
I'm like, oh
but
shit.
yeah, I mean,
That's their
and,
name.
and it, yeah, and again, it's not. If you look at an Orange Theory or fitness brands, they are in a fitness building. Okay, so there's more control,
Mhm.
right? In the fitness industry, and Orange Theory is its own business. So guess what? They can do what they want, and if you're going to coach at Orange Theory, you better do it this way, or else you're not working here, right? Okay, so we have so much variety and different unique circumstances, facilities, etc. It's a big, tall ask. What I do ask for coaches out there, and regardless of what country one is in, there's online education. Try to stick to the standards of the product as best you can. Unfortunately, what we see out there is just some super generic drilling with a yellow ball with poor music, and then they refer to it as cardio tennis.
How does it work? Do you guys send out like a music playlist and like a set of drills every so often of like, this is how we're running the class? Or like, how does that, or you just get educated and then you can kind of go into that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So really it's about the structure and the format.
Okay.
So if you know the structure and the format, which is not complicated, okay, all group fitness has structure, format, and time hacks. Okay, then you follow that structure and then you swap things in and out as needed. All right. One of the big misconceptions is, all right, I need to change it. I need to do something different. Actually, no, you don't. Okay. Meaning, in the structure of proper cardio, every workout has 8 to 10 unique activities. So think about that. That's a big number.
Yeah.
Think about doing a 1 hour anything on the tennis court and think how many activities, okay, we say activities, not drills, okay, that one usually gets in a 60-minute time period. Okay. Cardio tennis is designed for 8 to 10. There is so much variety there.
Yeah.
I mean, the variety is just built in. So you don't want to change things because there's a learning curve for the instructor and the consumer. All
Right.
right. For any coach, think about it. That's a big ask.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a big ask to deliver 8 to 10 unique activities within the structure. And when the consumer, when they understand the format and they have more familiarity, well, guess what? They train more efficiently and effectively
Mhm.
because they have a better idea of what they're doing. Because I'll ask coaches, how many activities do you do in a cardio workout? And sometimes they'll get the answer like 3 or 4. And then my question is, what are you doing? There's 3 activities in the warm up alone. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe it's a
So,
convenience factor. I don't know.
well, it's, you have to make a commitment,
Mhm.
right, as a coach to either, well, I'm going to do it to the standards or I'm going to make it up and do whatever I want.
There's probably a little frustration for you because you're training them to do something and then they kind of go rogue on you. So
Yeah, I've never been frustrated in 18 years. Yeah, it's tough to swallow sometimes, but again, I understand, and I adapt and I pivot. All right. So but again, anything you want to be good at, you have to spend some time on. Okay. And the thing is, our tennis coaches, because they might have a tennis coaching certification, oh, well, I can do cardio tennis. That is the equivalent of a fitness instructor because they have a fitness certification saying that they're qualified to teach Pilates. Two different things.
Mhm.
Because cardio tennis is a group fitness class. Okay. It just happens to feature the sport of tennis. So we make things easier from an education standpoint. And again, if you know the structure and the format, then it's actually quite easy. And for those that do follow the structure and the format, they are making money hand over foot. For some coaches out there, that is their living. Okay. They are making anywhere from 50 to 80% of all their income is cardio tennis based. So our coaches are always like, I don't make enough money. I'm not making any money. How do I make more money? Well, that's also my job. My job is to help, okay, our fellow coaches make money because as much as we love tennis, we still have to pay the bills.
Yeah.
All right. So when you're putting 6 to 8 people on a court and you're giving them a quality experience, I mean, there are coaches out there that they do 15 hours of cardio tennis classes a week themselves.
At the same facility or are they like
Yeah. Yeah. Same facility. It is proven.
Yeah.
Okay. It's proven if you're following the standards.
Right. That makes sense because you sign up to learn something, and it would make sense that you're trusting that there's a thought process behind why things are done the way that they are done.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Everything we do in cardio tennis has purpose. It is very purposeful and very specific, actually. And part of that is injury prevention. Okay. Part of that is proper warm up, all the inherent learning that you're doing just from playing game
Yeah.
is worth its weight in gold.
And what about your intensity fitness and your other things? I saw that you're a global fitness director
Yeah.
for
Yeah, so yeah, play your court. I don't work for them anymore. They're great. Love
oh,
Scott.
okay.
That was, yeah. And intensity is just a little thing that I do on the side. So
What is that?
yeah, just a steroid version of, cardio tennis, for lack of a better word.
How did you develop your on-court persona, your speaking abilities, right? Like, you're amazing. Obviously, you've done it 1,000 times and you've been doing it for years. But for someone just starting out, do you have any advice for them on how to find your voice and handle a group? Because it's
Yeah.
completely different, right? Doing a private
Yeah.
lesson to now going to 8 people looking at you, like, asking, "What are we doing, coach?"
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there's a couple pieces to this. Like anybody, I don't feel like I just naturally was a good public speaker presenting in a scenario off the court. And that in my early days was something that I needed to practice. So if you're in a classroom environment as opposed to an on the court, I mean, most of us that teach tennis, we're very comfortable on the court,
Yeah.
but maybe you go into a classroom work environment and then the nerves or whatnot kick in. So practicing, and I always encourage any of my trainers with practicing, that would mean being in a room, presenting to my dog, the wall, whatever, and saying the words out loud. And then when you do that enough, and then of course, you're still always looking to improve your speaking skills as you move on. That being said, I've always been pretty comfortable in front of people.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of that, when I graduated from college, I went and worked at Club Med. And I still feel that Club Med was probably one of the greatest living, learning experiences of your life, way better than college, just because what it teaches you from a social service, interacting with people from different cultures, that sort of thing. You're entertaining, you're always on stage in
Mhm.
some capacity. So I think I had that in me already. That's an easy move. So for me to be on a tennis court in front of others, whether it's 8 people or in a stadium full of 3,000 people, I love it. In fact, put me in front of 3,000 people because that makes me like the most excited. So, or put me on Arthur Ashe Stadium, the more the better. So I think a little bit of it, I luckily was kind of born with. Some of it got amplified and honed at Club Med. And then there's like the always practicing, trying to improve scenario. But as I get older, those skills do get better. And we also say you need to command your court. Okay. So whether you are coaching a ladies' doubles team, or you're doing cardio tennis, or you're working with 30, 10 and under kids, as coaches, we must command the court.
Yes.
So that is things like eye contact, body language, voice projection, because that's how we keep the court safe. So does that help?
Yeah. So it sounds like you learn while doing it,
Oh
basically.
yeah, there's a lot of learning while doing as well. Yep. Yep. Sometimes you just gotta jump right in.
I mean, I would say for myself, it's the same. I mean, I think when I started, I try to think back to when I started. Was I nervous? I think maybe my very first time, maybe teaching a group, but I don't remember ever being afraid of like a large group of people. But maybe that's my personality. Like, I'm like, let's go. I'll tell
Right.
you what to do. No problem.
Yep. Yep. And not everybody is like us in that respect.
Yeah.
I do recall the very first cardio tennis classroom presentation I did, and I was nervous and I was terrible. and I reviewed it, we filmed it, and I'm like, okay, yeah, it was not good. And then you get better.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great, actually, that's a good tip to, if you can, to kind of record
You can't.
yourself and oh,
Hmm.
you do things you don't even realize that you do. Any advice for women in particular? Because, and I'm always kind of weary of asking this because we get asked this all the time as women in the industry. But you are a leader, like you're up there and you've been so successful. And there's not a whole lot of women out there doing this. So, any advice from all the things that you've seen, all the experiences you've had for women in this industry that are out there grinding it out and dealing with all the things?
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough. I mean, I feel fortunate. I think one thing I've always looked at being a woman in the tennis industry as an advantage.
Mm, I
So,
love that.
not it.
Please say more.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I think right there, one must have that mindset.
Yes.
Like, I don't think ever looked at it like, oh, I'm a woman, this is a disadvantage. Because we are so unique,
Yeah.
right? There are so few of us. So, from that perspective, it's a big advantage. So, if you're a female and you're in the industry, or you want to move up through the industry or be more involved, it's about networking, okay? Because if you just put yourself out there and you meet the people, I mean, opportunities will fall into your lap. I
Yeah.
mean, I always feel like at a facility, you need at least one female coach on staff, if not more, right? Because we bring a completely different dynamic, a different vibe, that sort of thing. But I think there is plenty of opportunity, but you can't hide. You can't hide. You got to put your resume out there. You got to go to the local conference. You got to go to the local meetings. All right. We just had a USPTA District 7 a meeting in Fort Myers, and there are about 15. And I think how many gals were there? One, two, there were four of us. Okay. So four out of about 15 female. Would I like to see that? And three of us were really, the four of us were kind of the organizer. I like to see more females. But if you don't go to those things, nobody's going to know who you are. They're not going to know you and exist. So you do need to put oneself out there.
That is so true. And I don't know if women in general, but I certainly have a certain way I feel about networking. Just the word itself kind of like makes
Okay.
me itch. It's just one thing
Okay.
that I have. It's like, because a lot of times to me, just it doesn't feel genuine or authentic to just go and like introduce yourself to someone and then you never see them again. So can you talk about that a little bit? Because maybe it's a thing that's different between men and women. I don't know, but I feel really, and like I went to some of the USPTA events and stuff, and I always felt like I was maybe the only girl, or
Right.
maybe there was one other one. So that alone is like you're now having to talk to men, and
Right.
it's like not the most comfortable, fun thing for us to do.
Right. No, I
So
think
I don't know how you feel about that.
I would agree with you. Like, I think what
Yeah,
you're saying is common. I have those feelings
yeah.
occasionally. I do think maybe it is a more of a female feeling than a guy feeling. Although the guys I'll hear things like that from the guys as well, like coming into something, how nervous they were,
Mhm.
right? Like, and they go, well, why would you be nervous? You're so great, right? And I think part of it, and again, we're talking tennis here, and we live in the tennis world, so sometimes we don't know how the rest of the world is acting. I think we're pretty welcoming, but I think we can also do a much better job, right? So I have found over the years that, like, I can hear you share kind of that feeling. And I think, oh, well, this person, maybe they're feeling uncomfortable, maybe they're feeling nervous. So personally, I make sure that if it's an event or something that I'm involved in, that I am the first one welcoming that person, right? Like, I am going up to every person, introducing myself, shaking their hand, giving them a warm smile.
Mhm.
Because, yeah, people are coming to these things, and yeah, there's a little bit of nervousness. There's a little bit of, yeah, networking is not easy,
Right. And I
right?
think that that's common in any industry. I mean, In
Right.
any industry, you have to network. You can't avoid it, but
I just had an idea. Okay,
Mhm.
I'm gonna give you credit for this that popped into my blonde head. But okay, we think about the fact, okay, we can go to a lot of these tennis events and there's not a lot of women. And maybe there's a way like prior to the event, and I'll just think like in easy terms of our USPTA Florida conference, all right, which we'll have in May. Maybe we recognize in this case, like the females that are attending, and maybe we pre partner up some of the gals, right? Like the ones that are very established in the industry. So, like, that's your go to person, right? For the conference, that you're just not coming in because many people coming in that they're not going to know a lot of people. So, maybe if they have one friendly face that maybe
That
they've
helps.
talked to that person before the event, get a
Mhm.
little guidance. Anyways, I'm going to simmer on that, but I'm going to give
Yeah.
you
Oh,
credit for it when I implement it.
that helps because one time, I don't remember which one it was, one of the USPT events, I got paired up to basically be roommates, right, with
Okay.
another girl pro. And
Right.
it was actually really fun. And we
Yep.
kind of like relied on each other because many times we were
Right.
the only girls there. And to this day, we still follow each other on social media and stuff.
Yeah.
And that made it a lot more fun for sure.
Absolutely. It's like you guys are in it together. I'm going to keep thinking about this little concept, and hopefully we'll come up with something to help us gals. And I think it holds true for whether we have different backgrounds, right? And we want some of that similarity. So whether it's an ethnicity, whatever, like you want to have some commonality with some people. We have a DE&I meeting scheduled at that conference, and I want to make that meeting well worth everybody's time and
Yeah.
purposeful. I don't want it to be a meeting for the sake of meeting.
We have to get out of our comfort zone for sure to evolve
Yeah.
and I'll never forget. So I've been to many, I don't know. It's been years since I've been to one, to be honest. But I used to
Okay.
go to a lot of the USPTA stuff. And one of the things that really stuck with me that I remember to this day is it was a diversity guy. I don't remember his name, unfortunately, but it was
Okay.
a diversity and inclusion. And this guy said something that stuck with me and I will always remember. And it was that when you come to these events, look at where you're sitting in the room because you will naturally go to your most comfortable spot. See if next time, and it was, I'm paraphrasing,
Yeah. Yeah.
but maybe next time, see if you can go to the people you don't think are like you at all. Just go and
Right.
sit down somewhere completely random where you maybe not feel as comfortable and try to talk to those people.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I did that and it was like, wow, like that is so true because I'll go in a room and look for the other girl and like gravitates towards that, but I'm also limiting myself to just that.
Yep.
So that really stuck with me. That is one thing that, like I said, I'll never forget.
Well, I think that's something for us all to remember. Like, I know when in that scenario, where am I going to sit in the room? Well, sometimes I'm sitting in the front because I want to be really focused and I don't hear very well. Okay. Sometimes I'm sitting in the back
Yeah.
because I know I might have to scooch out because I usually have some other responsibilities, right? So
Mhm.
I think there's all different ways to look at it. And I'll go back to Club Med days. You had to dine with the guests. So whether it was breakfast, lunch, or dinner, because it was all about community. Okay. And Club Med, I'm going back too, but the whole
Yeah.
concept was that no TVs, no phones. I mean, internet didn't even exist at that point in time. So essentially, there could not be more than two employees at a table of eight, because otherwise, what are the employees going to do? They're all going to sit with each other.
And just talk to each other.
Right. Okay. And then we're living with those people. I mean, like the people that you're meeting from all over the
Yeah.
world. So it definitely serves a purpose. And you know what? Sometimes you'll have conversations or meet people and it's great. And then sometimes it's a bit of a dud.
Yeah.
And
You move
that's
on.
okay too. Right. That's exactly. You move on.
Yeah,
You made the effort.
exactly. And just kind of switching gears, I want to know how you stay fit.
Oh yeah, I'm
What do
glad
you
we
do?
bring that up, okay? Because I think people think I just eat like lettuce or something. I really don't know what others think. As you know, it's a whole holistic thing, and there's lots going on in that staying healthy and fit, especially as we age. But when I look at our colleagues, Jennifer, our tennis coaches, right? And teaching tennis is physical.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. I mean, you could be a roofer in Florida. That's physical. Okay. Teaching tennis is very physically demanding on the body. And so, how are you going to create that longevity? And I see a lot of our coaches, and it doesn't matter where they are in the world, and they're having trouble walking, right? The aches and pains are strong. Their ability to play the sport is limited. So, it's again, I go back to consistency. But for me personally, there's a couple things that I've done more or less my whole career. One is acupuncture. Typically, I use it more for, it can be used for many purposes, but with all the traveling I do, it resets the internal clock. So if I go overseas and come back and time change, and then I have acupuncture and I'm good to go. Okay. Also aches, pains, many things. Active release technique I've been doing for 27 years.
Wow,
Right.
what is that?
So, yeah. So, active release technique, which it is done by a chiropractor. So, they have to be a chiropractor first. Not all chiropractors are qualified in active release technique, but it's manipulating and moving the fascia. And our whole body is covered in fascia. And when that gets tight and is not released, that's actually a source of pain and potential injury. So those two things, and I'll throw massage in there, have kept me on the court and injury free pretty much my whole career. Then you add working out,
Of course.
okay, doing strength and conditioning, especially as we age. Doesn't mean you have to lift heavy weight, but body weight is fine. But continuing on that path, tennis is my favorite activity. All right. So, I mean, I'm going to get out and whack tennis balls and do cardio singles. Okay. That's always going to be my go-to. I rollerblade. So I would say tennis and rollerblading are kind of my two big
That's fun.
cardio, yeah, two big cardio fitness activities. And for the last 2 years, I've been playing a lot of padel.
Oh, fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Where do you
padel
go?
is, so we are lucky that we have a court in Sarasota.
Nice.
So there's only one. Yeah. And we've had it for about 2 years now. So yeah,
Is it at
love,
a club
love.
or is it a private place?
It's now at a country club. So
Uh,
it just happens to be the club down the street from me. So it works out really well. You can come. Well, I mean, so you guys have the four courts in at Sandra Vandenberg.
at SVB, yeah. But that's
Yeah.
actually really far from me.
I know. It's like it's not Tampa. It's north of
Yeah.
Tampa. It's like I'm not going up there. That's a good 90-minute drive for me. So no,
Yeah.
5 minutes from my house, I have a court. So
Oh, that's awesome.
yay.
I just got my first
Yeah.
title, so
Okay, good. And then the other component is sleeping. I am
Mm,
a big proponent of sleep. People are not sleeping enough, but that is your recovery. So do what you can to get at least 7 hours of sleep a
and if
night.
you are not getting your sleep, get it figured out. Go to a doctor because it's so
Yes, it's too important. Exactly. I will always pick sleep over working out. Right. So it's like, okay, if my body's tired, I'm tired. I know I need to sleep. I'm not going to get up early to go to a gym or play tennis because the sleep part is more. I need that more.
yeah. And then before you go, I have just last two questions. I want to know how many countries you've visited, and
Okay.
if you know off the top of your head,
Yeah.
and the grand slam and double bagel of your tennis coaching career.
I think I'm around the 26 country mark.
Wow.
I'd have to do a so I'm very blessed and fortunate. But again, tennis, I mean, tennis has given me everything. It's been an amazing career, all my friends. I just, yeah, it's just an amazing world. I have to say there's two little ones. Okay. So one was when we first brought cardio tennis to Australia. And this is going back a number of years. But I went the first year for education, training, get everybody up to speed. Then the following year was kind of more they're pushing out of it. And I remember showing up at the tournament. And at the time, as all tournament venues do, they change. But at the time on Rod Laver Arena, what you saw on the marquee
Uh,
was cardio tennis and hot shots, but there was cardio tennis on the marquee on Rod Laver Arena, and that was just massively huge for me. And there was a trip to Italy for PTR symposium. And the Italian symposium, because again, their education is different, usually about 3,000 coaches go to their conference. And it's usually done around the time of the Italian Open. And this particular time, part of it was a private session at the Vatican with the Pope.
Oh my God.
So the room at the Vatican probably held easily 3,000 people, maybe 5,000, but that was one of their smaller spaces. And it's the Pope. All right. So, and I knew that I would kind of be in the closer rows to the stage, but I ended up being in the second row.
Oh my God.
And it was like a party. Like they had a MC who would be comparative to like a Jimmy Kimmel. They had American music, like again, comparatively speaking, like, you know, a Backstreet Boys band. So it was all, but there was all the pomp and circumstance and ceremony of the tradition of the Pope and what he does. The very front row is for all the super VIPs. And what the Pope does in this case is he walks down that row and he basically greets slash touches everybody. It really, that's the only time he's touching any. There's a whole lot of rules and things going on there. But I was right behind that row. I mean, I could have like stretched my arm.
Give him a
And
high
so,
five.
yeah, give the high five. And they presented him with a beautiful white racket that was all like engraved and macked out daddy for the, and the whole thing was in Italian. So you didn't even know what they were saying. So anyways, those were 2 grand slams. Bagels. Ooh, that would be tougher. Ooh, I don't know that there's any ginormous thing that sticks out to me that would give me a wrecking sense of disaster-ish. There's here and there poor performances. There's things I think if you had a do-over, what would you do differently? But I just, because candidly, everything's been so cool.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that I haven't cried a lot over cardio tennis, okay? Because believe me, I've done a lot of crying over the years for various reasons, okay? Yeah. But yeah, nothing too disastrous. So sorry, audience. I have nothing exciting in that area to share with you.
All good. The reason I asked that is because I think most of the times, right, or always, we learn the most from the hard times, and they have for a certain reason. So for you to move on to the next thing or learn a certain lesson or whatever it is, right? So that's why I always ask that.
Well, one lesson I will tell you, and this kind of is not just specific, but it's kind of, there have been times where I'm going to use the word bullied, although that's kind of strong, like into doing some things that, and I'll just say with tennis and the product, maybe that really, like, I kind of let myself be pushed in that direction when it wasn't the right direction to go into. So, I mean, I think there's just a lesson there of remember to listen to your gut. Okay. Yeah. You can listen to other people and you do want their advice. Okay. But ultimately, I think we each know internally what is best for the whatever that circumstance might be.
Yeah. And know when to stick to your guns.
Yeah, stick to your guns. Yep.
And then lastly, I know you wanted to mention National Tennis Month that's coming up in May.
Yeah.
I forgot, so I just highlighted it.
Thank you. So, I appreciate that.
What do you want to say about that?
Yeah. So, you know, National Tennis Month is May. This has been something we've been celebrating as an industry on and off for a number of years. I feel like this May is going to be one of our bigger, better ones. And one of those pieces to that month is May 19th. That will be, this is a placeholder right now, but I'm going to call it National Hit to Be Fit Day. Nice. And for lack of a better description, it's going to be the world's largest triples event. We will be at the flagship will be Lake Nona. There's 20 courts reserved. And the goal is that we're going to have 300 facilities across the country, all doing the event the same day. Nothing like this has ever really been done in our industry. We've had National Tennis Month, but we haven't really had like one specific day when we're trying to rally everybody. Why would one do this? Why would a coach or a facility do? Well, one, to be part of something that's going to be very exciting, have a lot of promotion, and really hasn't been done before. Two, there'll be some incentives. Three, the event itself is a cardio tennis triples plus a red ball programming piece to that. So red ball is a big initiative of the US today going forward. And there's going to be a lot of focus going forward on red ball play for adults. So more info to come on that, but right now it's a save the date for May 19th.
Great. Thank you for sharing that with us and for sharing your story and your knowledge. It's awesome. And hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Anytime you like. It's been a pleasure. Can I just say one more quick thing, Jennifer?
Sure.
We do have a new logo for cardio tennis. So if I get back to branding,
I like it.
Yeah, this has been a long time coming. We're very excited about it. What's special about this is actually the symbol. So you can see that the symbol is a heart, which cardio tennis has always been about the heart pumping fitness, it's love. You can see the letters CT are embedded in there. You can also, if you look, you can see what looks to be like the lines of the tennis court a little bit. And then the gradient coloring from yellow, orange to red, that is representing the heart rate zones, because cardio tennis is a group heart rate training workout. So very excited about our new logo.
Did you design that, or do you have someone?
No, and the gentleman who designed it, Andrew at USTA, we give him all the credit. He nailed it. We had discussions about it. We met about it. I gave him my vision. He came back to us with this. We knew the second we saw it, it was like no changes. Like you nailed it. Like we immediately knew. So anyway, that is the new logo. So yay.
Well, thank you so much, Michele. All the best.
Thank you. All right. We'll chat soon.